Yes. You could say this is coffee. You could say this is Oregon fan tears. I don't know which one it is. You can decide. Illinois upsets. Do we even call it an upset? Do we even call it an upset? I guess technically, in terms of the AP poll ranking, it's an upset. Illinois pounds Oregon 109-77 last night in Eugene. The largest margin of victory. The Illinois basketball Twitter account just tweeted this out. The largest margin of victory against an AP top 10 team on the road of all time. Of all time. Oh, my goodness. Welcome. This is From Beyond Champaign, an Illinois basketball podcast. I see some people in our chat already. Shout out to Jay and Shane. What's going on, guys? Good morning. I would have done this last night, but my girlfriend had to be up at 5 a.m. to go to work. And I just know that I would not have been able to do this without some sort of celebratory yelling. There was no way that I was going to be able to do this and be quiet. There was no possible way that I was going to be able to do it and be quiet, or a form of quiet that she is going to be asleep still while I do it. I need a bigger apartment. I need my own office. Don't get me started. I've been trying to do this for the last 10 months. But that's a whole nother story that maybe I'll tell one day. But anyway, what a win last night, man. What a win. Hit the like button for Illinois. Hit the like button for Brad Underwood. Hit the like button for Ben Humrichous. What a redemption story that is in just one game. Jake Davis. I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I don't take Jake Davis that seriously. The dude's a random white guy who played at Mercer last year. This guy comes into this game scoring like a total of 14 points for the entire season and just, casually puts Illinois on his back in the first half, along with Gibbs-Lawhorn, who, if you've been listening or watching, you know that I've been huge on DGL since last year, to be honest with you. And so to see the bench really pick this team up in the first half and then the starters really take off in the second half. Casparis Jackosonis had to sit the last 10 minutes of the first half. Didn't matter. Illinois still almost put up 50 points in the first half. But they were able to get by because of their bench. Trey White, double-double, 20 and 11. I put up a TikTok and a YouTube short talking about Trey White being a guy I'm buying stock on going into Big Ten play. I talked about it in the last show. Trey White is a guy I'm buying all the stock in right now for this Illini team. And he just made me look really smart, which doesn't happen very often with many things. I feel very justified right now after this game when it comes to Trey White. I mean, you can go up and down this entire box score. I don't even know where to really start, to be honest with you all. Like, I really don't, other than the fact that Illinois showed once again what their ceiling can be. Now, if they go to Washington on Sunday and do this again and just steamroll through this month of January, then maybe I can fully buy in on a deep March run. Maybe. This month of January is tough. In the last show, I predicted 7-2, and I felt like that was a little delusional to say, considering I don't really know what we're going to get out of this Illini team. But if they play like this, like they played against Oregon, oh my, and don't tell me that Oregon isn't that good. They have some really solid non-conference wins. They were put in the top 10 of the AP poll for a reason. They were They were ranked pretty high in KenPom before the end of last night's game. You cannot tell me that this win against Oregon isn't that big of a deal. It is a huge deal. Just imagine if they had beat Northwestern and Tennessee and then did this. I'm not trying to go back to the past and bring myself down. That's not what this show is about. But this team would be ranked in the top 5 of college basketball in the AP poll and everything if they'd beat Tennessee, at least out of those two, and win this game. I think if they win on Sunday against Washington, we'll be talking about Illinois being a top 10 team in the AP poll. Washington, going to be tough. They just beat Maryland tonight on their home floor. They get another one against Illinois on Sunday. The narrative behind the fact of traveling across the country in this new format of the Big Ten, Illinois said, "Hold my beer." I feel like every year I'm like, man, like I'm comfortable with this. I'm happy to see that we're competitive in the Big Ten, but man, did Brad Underwood and company come into this year and say, we're going to do this and we're going to blow people's minds? Because whether it's good or bad, depending on the game that you want to talk about, this Illinois team blows my mind. It blows my mind that they didn't win the game against Tennessee. It blows my mind what they did against Arkansas and what they did against Oregon last night. I just need to see some consistency. That's what I need. I need to see this again on Sunday, some form of this. I don't think they're going to score I can't expect 109 points every game at this level. I just can't. But all I can say is that if this game doesn't have you excited or dreaming a little bit or optimistic about at least winning the Big Ten, then you are just a very leveled wait and see or pessimistic fan. That's what it is. Like you don't get too high, you don't get too low. You're just very same throughout the entire year, in which in many ways I respect, because I just can't do that. You win a game like Illinois did last night, and I will personally come on here and probably be way too excited. But man, 32-point win in Eugene against a top 10 team, the largest margin of victory of all time. Excuse me for just being a little bit excited about this one, man. Excuse me. Oh my God. I don't know if any team in the country would have beat Illinois last night. I don't know if you want to talk about the best teams in the country that I've watched so far. I would put Gonzaga up there. I honestly, maybe Auburn is a team up there, right? Alabama, we've seen them ourselves, but will Kansas be better? I think some people are down on Kansas, but I still think Kansas is still a top 5 team in the country. Last night, if any team in the country played this Illinois team, I really don't think they would have won. Everything went right for Illinois last night, outside the fact that their best player was in foul trouble early and basically gave you nothing. And he still finished with like 16 points and 6 assists, 6 rebounds. So, I mean, that just says enough about how great Casparis is. But, oh my God, I couldn't go to sleep last night, folks. I couldn't go to sleep. Get down. This dog I'm watching is way too excited because I'm yelling right now. Let's go to the chat, and then we'll dive in a little bit more about this game. Shane says, what a beatdown. Jay says, a huge W. Absolutely, Jay. Shane says, that's the intensity I've been waiting for all season, and for the last few seasons, they showed it on offense and defense, where they tend to slack off on the defensive side. Yeah, I think I know they won by 32, but there were some points where in that second half where Oregon kind of went on a little bit of they would go on like a 5 or 6 or 7-0 run, cut it to like maybe 13, 12 points. And then Illinois would just answer immediately. And that's something that we love to see, considering the games they've blown this year. So yeah, you need more of that, especially if you're going to win especially if you're going to win road games in the Big Ten. Might need to break out the beer bat for this one. It's 5 p.m. somewhere. We need is there a basketball version of a beer bat? Do we Do we just get a big bowl that's shaped like a basketball and chug beer out of it? A big breakout game for Hummer. Finally, I liked how he finally went to the bucket and backed people down. Yes, Jay. Yes. Oh my, yes. How have I not even mentioned that? Ben Humrichous. Ben Humrichous. It was like, it was the first time I feel like we've seen all season, right? Like, even when he was making shots in November, he was only taking threes. It was awesome to see him use his size and just skill set to get to the basket and take advantage of matchups that he had. Will we see this moving forward? I hope so, because he can't just be a three-point shooter with that size that he has. And the fact that his rebounding hasn't been very good. He's got to get himself going one way or another. And it's just awesome to see him do that. And then he hit what, like 3 or 4 threes last night? Like, that's what they need. I'm not asking for 18 points a game every night. I'm asking for just competence. I'm asking for what? Should I ask for 8 to 10 points a night? I feel like 8 to 10 is going to at least keep the defense honest. They need this from Ben Humrichous. They need it. I'm happy for the guy. He was probably getting a lot of heat online this last month, especially. Like, they definitely need him to be something. On top of the fact that I talked about this in the last show, you know what you're going to get out of KJ. You know what you're going to get out of Kylan Boswell. And you know what you're going to get out of Tomislav Isavic, right? They got Trey White going in the Wisconsin game, and he's been awesome since then, right? They just needed to get Ben Humrichous going. And now, if he gives you some form of what he gave you last night, any form of it, again, you're going to have an 18-point night. This Illini team may never lose again. But if you're able to give them 8 to 12 points with some form of competent defense and hit a couple threes a game that keeps the defense honest, this Illini team is going to be dangerous with that starting five. They can be dangerous with that starting five if Trey White and Ben Humrichous have the start to play like they've been playing. Trey White's been doing it since early December. Hopefully this January stretch is when we see Ben Humrichous really show and prove that Brad Underwood knows what he's freaking doing when it comes to recruiting and starting lineups and all of that. This is a great game for Ben, man. So happy for him. Spurgeon Cub fan, Jake and DGL putting up 23 was not in the scouting report for Oregon. Dude, what was his last name for Oregon? Angel? I think his last name was Angel. That guy, he kept getting the matchups. Like, Illinois took advantage of that matchup so much. That guy, like, whether it was I feel like there was a few times I saw Kylan go past him, and I saw DGL go past this guy multiple times. And like, that's one of this is one of the things that Brad Underwood talks about, just having positionless basketball, guys who are athletic, long, and can come out and guard at the 3-point line and be able to score off the dribble in different ways and just use their size and just be a matchup nightmare for the opposing team. And I feel like, I believe his last name is Angel. I'll bring up the box score to make sure. There were multiple times where I feel like Illinois took advantage, the size advantage, whether it was a guard being matched up with him, mostly where they did do that. And yeah, like DGL, that first half, that was the most aggressive I feel like I've seen DGL against like a Power 4 school, or, even last year. Like, most of his good games that we have seen has been in bye games against mid-major schools, right? I'm looking at their roster. Yeah, Brandon Angel, 2 of 8 from the field, 5 points, and he was getting cooked on defense all night by Illinois guards because he just kept getting matched up on them somehow, some way. And Jake Davis, what is that meme? The Shaq meme? Sorry, I didn't fully understand your game, like that meme. That's me with Jake Davis. Not that I've never liked Jake Davis. Of course, I'm going to root for the guy, but I watch the guy, I watch him run up and down the court, and I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, what is he? Okay, he can shoot the three. Is that all he can do? I felt like he was all over the place last night. I felt like 12 points, 3 rebounds. He even got on the boards. But yeah, if he hits anything that he does this entire season in a game, it's such an added bonus for this Illinois team. Such an added bonus. 12 points on 5-6 shooting in just 11 minutes. So he scored a point every minute of the game if you want to average it out, I guess. Yeah, the bench really carried Illinois last night, and especially in that first half. Morez Johnson had 4. Will Riley had 5. Of course, it was in like the final minute of the game or whatever. So if you want to talk about concerns, we can talk about Will Riley later in the show because he's still struggling. But, man, when you get double-digit scoring out of 4 out of your 5 starters and Isevich is the one guy who's not, then, man, you're getting a lot of great production out of your key players. Okay. Sonny from Locked On Illini, you should all go subscribe to that channel on YouTube. It's a great show. He says that was the best team in the country last night. And like I said that earlier, yeah, I absolutely agree. Let's see. Phillips says the cherry on top last night was Maryland losing to Washington, mainly because I still hate Willard for his shit last year. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to when Illinois gets to play Maryland. They can never beat them, but we'll get there when we get there. I'm just right now in the moment. Like you look at this box score, folks. You look at this box score. Let's just acknowledge they're not going to go 16 for 29 from 3 every night, but they are designed to take a lot of threes, and they're all really good shooters. So they're going to have nights like this where they do that. But we've seen games where they have made a lot of threes, but whether it's turnovers or maybe their defense isn't as sharp, where even though they make those threes, they don't necessarily have the best game. I feel like maybe the Wisconsin game is a good example. I felt like they should have won by double digits against Wisconsin. I was there at the State Farm Center. I don't remember exactly off the top of my head what they shot in that game, but when you go back to it, you feel like they should have won that game by a lot more. You can say the same thing about the game against Mizzou. I know the refs were terrible in that game, but they made shots in that game, but turnovers killed them, right? This game right here was, like Sonny said, like I said earlier in the show, this version of this Illinois team was the best team in the country last night. They didn't do anything wrong that hurt themselves. They had 10 turnovers for the game. I can live with 10 turnovers. They went 9 of 11 from the free throw line. These are the two things that I'm always like pulling my hair out about. Them either turn the ball over too much or not making free throws. Right? Oregon shot 43%, 5 of 15 from 3. They probably should have taken more threes. They missed some freebies early. Like Illinois actually started the game not great, right? Like they couldn't make a shot the first like 5 minutes of the game. But they found themselves up 7 by like the 12-minute mark. I believe it was like 14-7, and Oregon called a timeout. They found themselves up 14-7, despite the fact that they couldn't make any shots because of their rebounding and because they were able to get into the interior. And that was kind of the difference early on. And then the threes started falling, and it was like, holy cow, what's going on, right? Like, this is night and day from how the game started, right? Yeah, Carl in the chat says started 0 of 7 on threes. Yeah. This team that won by 32 last night, that's what they started from 3, and they finished 16 of 29. So, I talked to a lot of friends of mine, and they're like, I think it's kind of like an old school thinking or mentality that they have in their heads. And a lot of them are like, why do they take so many threes? And why do they take so many in transition whenever you can get a layup or something like that? And this is just the way this Illini team is built, man. They're built to play fast, get in transition, shoot a lot of threes. That's just what they are designed to do. Then that's honestly what the best teams in college basketball are doing in this era. And so, as Brad Underwood has done over the years, in my opinion, he adapts to what's happening, what people are doing, what teams are doing. So on a night you make 16 out of 29 from the 3-point line, shoot 55% from 3. You better not only should you better win that game, but also you can see when they shoot like this and they don't hurt themselves in the process, whether it's turning the ball over, careless turnovers, or missing free throws, you can see what this team can be. On top of the fact that they're already a pretty solid defensive team. They're certainly a better defensive team than last year, right? Obviously, this roster is completely different from last year, but I think we can all certainly say that they're better defensively. So if this offense continues to be the way that it's been, if they shore up the turnovers, they can find some consistency at the free throw line, and they just play together like they've been playing, they can be incredibly dangerous. We could seriously be talking about this team winning the Big Ten. Entering the season, I felt top 5 at least. Didn't know what we're going to get out of a lot of guys. Really didn't. I was optimistic about Kylan. I was optimistic about DGL taking a step this year. But to be completely honest with you guys, I really didn't know what we would get out of Casparis or Will Riley. I really didn't. And would I say they have completely exceeded my expectations for this season at this point? Coming off a 32-point win on the road against a top 10 AP poll team, perhaps you can say that they have. Because they're so young, inexperienced, they lack continuity coming the year. Sure, you're going to have some losses that make you want to pull your hair out, right? Northwestern, yeah, Tennessee, right? No one thought they'd beat Alabama at that point in the year, right? But we always thought or hoped that continuity would form headed into January. And Brad Underwood teams have been awesome in January over the course of his time at Illinois. If this is what we're going to see in January, oh boy. Oh boy, my man. Oh boy. I know. If you're an opposing fan and you're watching right now and you or hate watching, or maybe you like me because I'm a Cubs fan or whatever, and you watch me from CHGO and you're just checking this out and you might like another Big Ten team. This is how I would be if the Cubs were actually good. This is exactly how I would be. When my teams are riding high, I am as delusional as it gets. I get as excited as I possibly can and think about the possibilities of actually winning something. I haven't felt like that with any of my other favorite teams in Chicago for a very, very long time. And this is the one thing that I've had over the last 5 years is just the excitement of Illinois basketball being a top 5 team in the Big Ten every year. And last night, they just showed again, the culture and what Brad Underwood has done in Champaign. It's incredible to see where this program is at right now compared to 10 years ago. It just really is. On top of the fact that the football team just won the Citrus Bowl the night before. I mean, if you're an Oregon fan right now, I have one Oregon fan friend. He actually lives out in Northern California. I should probably send him a message of like thoughts and prayers or something. Tough 48 hours for Oregon fans. No doubt about that, right? All right. Let's see. I'm looking at the chat here. Spurgeon Cubs fan. My dad always asked before game time, which Trey White will we see tonight? Last night's Trey White was a good one for sure. Yeah. And like I've said, I think since the Wisconsin game, he has figured out his role with this team. He had a nice little it was a rarity. An Illini player took a mid-range jumper, but in the flow of the offense, Trey White off the dribble took a guy who I think was mismatched up against him. It might have been Brandon Angel, honestly, and had a nice little pull-up mid-range jumper that he drained last night. And like we just weren't seeing that early in the season from him. You love to see that confidence from a guy like Trey White too. And yeah, I think he can be. I don't know which player to compare him to from last year's team or years past, but he's kind of the X factor to me because I feel confident in Kylan and in Casparis and Tomislav. Trey White and Ben Humrichous are kind of like those X factor types. They need some form of consistency from those two guys, and they can have success, and they can have games like this. Eggs. This guy's name is Eggs. He says, love the post-game video of Underwood propping Humrichous up for continually showing up despite his shooting slump and came through in a huge way last night. Yeah, that video, of course, some people managed to find a negative in it because people were talking about Kerry Booth in the background. And if y'all want to talk about that, we can talk about that. But yeah, this is great for this is a great confidence boost for Humrichous, man. And this goes back to like culture and Brad believing in his guys, man. So many people over the last month have been like, they just need to bench Humrichous. He can't play at all. They can't play him at all. Brad clearly loves the guy, believes in the guy. And he kept playing him. And it bodes fruit tonight. Now, again, we need some consistency. At Washington on Sunday, if he comes out and goes like 1 of 4 with 2 points and doesn't do much of anything, then it's going to bring people back down to earth, right? But he's got to keep doing what he did in that game against Oregon, and that's go to the basket, be some sort of aggressive factor on the court, right? But yeah, overall, yeah. I mean, that's the kind of shit that gets me excited and why I defend Brad so much. Kenneth says, up to number 5 in the net ranking. I did see that this morning. I think there's no other Big Ten team in the top 10 of the net ranking. So, yeah, if you look at the rankings for Illinois right now, it really will get you excited at least and make you really start wondering, can this team make a run in March? Carl says, I like how Kylan didn't overreact to Jake's bad inbound pass, which was unnecessarily hard. That trust, even while making a mistake, enabled a huge team win. I do vaguely remember that moment. Yeah. They didn't have many mistakes that night. Obviously, you win by 32. You don't make a lot of mistakes, but yeah, no, it's Kylan. I felt like Kylan came in and did Casparis' role really well when Casparis was out because of injury. I thought he didn't shoot well early. I mean, he only shot 5 of 14 from the field, but he made 4 threes, right? And a few of them were deep too. This guy's got range. And I felt like his defense again was awesome. Jackson Shellstad for Oregon, they're like most experienced player, 9 points on 4 of 11 shooting. He just locks. He's a lockdown defender. On top of the fact that I felt like he was a leader on the court last night, especially when KJ was out with foul trouble. So Kylan, once again, just showing how much of a great addition he is to this team. And it only makes it better that he's from Champaign. Let's see. Ryan says, take out those first 7 misses from 3. After that, it was 16 of 22. That's crazy, man. That's crazy to think about. That's really crazy to think about. Carl says, love those driving twos to get us back in the game when we were down 7-2, easy in the game. Yeah. The beginning of the game, I don't really want to say I was getting nervous or, negative early. I will say this, that Oregon crowd was underwhelming. The Oregon crowd was underwhelming. And so despite the fact that they didn't really start great, I felt like they were playing a neutral site game. And maybe it's because it's January 3rd and maybe there's like the students are still on break or half the freaking country was still wherever they played Ohio State in that bowl game. I don't know. But that was the best game in college basketball last night in terms of like hype, right? Like I looked at that entire schedule yesterday and I felt like Illinois and Oregon was the best game of college basketball last night. And Oregon fans just didn't show up, in my opinion. Like, I think if their crowd shows up, maybe things go a little bit different just because this Illinois team is young. Have technically only played one road game going into that. I just didn't feel like the crowd ever got into this game at all. Even when Oregon started the game 7-2 or whatever, the crowd only plays so much of a factor, but they were never in this game at all, ever. And to me, that's like, why? Like, why were you not hyped at least at the beginning of the game? Because it was the marquee game of the day. You're a top 10 team playing a ranked team coming to your house. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. Maybe we're just different out here in the Midwest. Maybe we're just different. You know what I mean? All right. What else we got here? Philip says Illinois KenPom offense is 15, defense is 7. Oregon offense 29, defense 31. I wish I knew. I didn't go and look before the game. I didn't know what Oregon's rankings were before the game, but yeah, Illinois is now. They have to be a top 10 team in KenPom now. KenPom has loved Illinois all season, so I'm curious. I haven't looked. The thing is I didn't really feel the need to look. It's like, I know that Illinois is a top 10 team in KenPom without even looking. I would not be, I would be shocked if they're not a top 10 team in KenPom after that game last night. Let's see what else. Kylan needs to practice his twos under pressure, but he played great overall. Yeah, no, he missed some. There was a 2-possession stretch from Kylan. He missed a layup and then he turned it over the next possession. This is like late first half, right? And that's when Oregon was still in the game. It was like 10 points, and that was probably his worst part of the game is when he missed that easy layup and then turned it over the next possession. So, but overall, yeah, he was awesome. Alexander says, like and sub to this guy. Thank you, Alexander. I appreciate that, man. If you are new here, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. I'm doing Illinois content as much as I possibly can. This is not my full-time job, but I do cover the Chicago Cubs full-time, but Illinois basketball is my second love. I even love this program more than I love the Bears. But to be honest with you, I really just hate being a Bears fan. But yeah, subscribe to the channel. I'm posting all my content here now. I used to just put my Illinois content on here, but I put a lot of my Cubs content on here too. So, yeah. Anyway, I love the interaction we're getting. I love a nice winning post-game show. I love it. Jay says, probably the best time to play them with the crowd being a total non-factor, Christmas break and the beatdown from Ohio State. Probably, man. It just simply has to be it, right? These Oregon tears, they taste so good. Let me tell you. Okay. So who else have we not talked about? We talked about Trey White. We've talked about Kylan. We've talked about Humrichous a little bit, right? I talked about the bench with Jake Davis and Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn, right? Casparis. I think the most impressive thing about this, they scored 45 points in the first half without Casparis giving you anything. We have watched games where Casparis legitimately, it feels like Casparis legitimately has to carry them. And for them to still score 45 points and a half where he basically gives you nothing that might be my favorite part of this entire game. The game notes from this one that I'll take away is that probably. But obviously in the second half, he came out to ball. That between the legs pass to, was it Humrichous early in the second half that I've seen all over my Instagram feed and my Twitter feed since this game ended. I mean, this guy's special, man. I don't know what else to say about Casparis, man. This is what I'll say. I tweeted this last night. It pisses me off to extreme levels that the Bulls are not tanking. The guy is 2 hours south in Champaign, and you can watch him for yourself and see that this guy is gonna change a franchise one day. Is that too delusional of me to say? I fully believe. I'm in full belief that Casparis Giacchionis, whoever picks him, is going to be a franchise-changing point guard for them because he can do it all. He can shoot the three. He can pass the ball. Late in the game, when the game was way out of reach and it didn't even matter, on the pick and roll with Morez Johnson, the no-look pass to him. I mean, this guy he makes it so fun to watch this team, dude. He makes it so fun to watch this team. And he does all the little things right, the things that aren't going to be shown on the highlight reel. He does all those things. The only thing you can criticize about Casparis this season is, he's had games where he's turned it over too much. And it's just part of going through it with him. But man, like he's so fun to watch, dude. He's so fun to watch. And as a Bulls fan, it pisses me off that they're not tanking to get this guy. It pisses me off to no ends. Imagine Illini fans if Io DeSumo and Casparis Giacchionis were on the same team. You had Io coming off the bench for Casparis. We call them the Chicago Illini. Something like that. So I think I've touched everyone. You wanna look at some things to be concerned about, I guess. I did mention this earlier. Sorry. I've had a cold the last 2 weeks, it feels like at this point. Will Riley. I mean, he scored 5 points in the final, couple minutes of the blowout, right? Do I feel like Illinois will reach its peak once he gets going? Yes. I think once you find some consistency with Will Riley and consistency with Ben Humrichous and to go with Trey White, those three guys, to me, Trey White's been great since early December, right? So you're starting to get it from him. Humrichous has his best game of the season by far last night. Will Riley, it's been a while, man. And his game was kind of why I wasn't sitting here advocating for Humrichous to be benched. Now, maybe you want to argue about maybe putting Morez in there to start the game with Isevich. Sure, I guess. But we all know that Humrichous is out there to stretch the floor because Illinois wants to shoot a lot of threes and they want to play fast, right? So I get why Humrichous kept being put in the starting lineup. But Will Riley, I think it's safe. I said this last show. I continue to feel like it's safe to say that Will Riley is going to be here next year, which is not a bad thing. He'll certainly be the number one option for this team. Hopefully, you give him a whole summer with Adam Fletcher. I just think he needs to get bigger and stronger. I just feel like he gets bullied so much. His drives to the basket are so wild sometimes. And I feel like the only way he is going to give them some real production is if that three starts falling for him. And he hit a three late yesterday. He hit, and when it didn't matter, he hit a three late in that game. Just to see the ball go through, hopefully, maybe it can be a sign of something happening in the next game, right? He's had good games against in the bye games. He had a great game, a decent game against Chicago State. I want to say he had a decent game against Arkansas. I can't remember. I guess I could bring up his game log, but I guess I don't know what to expect out of Will Riley at this point. I think that's really my only concern from this game. Egg says, I wish Riley would drive to the hoop more. Get that going, and the shots will start to fall. Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's coming out and jacking up threes to try to get himself going, and maybe the reverse would be better. Get something going to the basket. Get a foul call. And hit a couple free throws. The three ball hasn't been falling, and you can see that there's talent. We've seen it. There's talent there. The guy, unless he completely goes from night to day in terms of his production over the next 3 months, like I don't see him going to the NBA after 1 year. And I just feel like he's on those drives to the basket. A lot of them have been really just uncontrolled. Like you don't feel like he has a lot of control in those drives. And you just need to see something more, man. I feel like I'm wanting more and more from him every game. So that's really my only concern from this game is Will Riley. The Kerry Booth stuff from that video that the Illini Twitter account put up, like I don't think it's, well, let me start over. Is it something that I should be taking seriously? At this point, I don't even really care, to be honest with you. Like, what has Kerry Booth done to earn more minutes? And what has he done to really just what has he done to really deserve our care, I guess? Like, I don't know how else to really say it. Like, I feel like Brad played him early, and he just hasn't earned more minutes in his playing time. I felt like he got an uptick in minutes against Chicago State, didn't really do much. I personally feel like Kerry Booth is kind of like a project at this point and could potentially have a bigger role next year. But if he transfers out because of the era that we're in, because he's mad that he didn't get more playing time or something like that, like, so be it. Brad's just going to go find someone else and to take his spot. That's just how I feel. Like, especially now that like these athletes, majority of them are all getting paid. Like, you want to transfer out, more power to you. I'm not going to feel this anxiety that, oh, this guy's going to leave because we're not playing him. The team won by 32 last night. I don't know. I don't see why I should be worried about that. I really don't. And also, just take a little perspective. We all thought Dre Gibbs-Lawhorn was going to transfer for like 3/4 of the season. Hell, I was surprised. At some points, I was surprised that he didn't just leave the team, like pull a Sky Clark based off the court distractions his mom caused and stuff like that. Like, and he's here. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Kerry Booth, I'm rooting for him. I'm gonna root for every single player that goes on the court. But I personally just not taking that video that Illinois put up that was celebrating like a post-game locker room celebration. I'm not going to use that and see, oh, Kerry Booth's body language looks weird. I'm not using that to judge that this guy wants out or whatever. I think that this season is a great experience for him. I really do. And the culture that Brad has built, whether he transfers or not, at the end of the year, like, again, there's going to be players who are going to want to come to Illinois, as they have shown over the last couple years. Illinois has become a destination. They have become a destination. So, because they've had guys like Terrence Shannon Jr., and they've had guys like Ayo Dosunmu, and they've had guys like Casparis Jackashonis, who is currently being projected as a top 10 NBA draft pick. If guys want to go to the NBA, Illinois has become a spot where they're like, I can go to the NBA if I go to Illinois. All right. So that's just kind of how I view it. It is what it is at this point. When it comes to the anxiety, I guess you could say, of guys potentially transferring out. I hope Kerry Booth is just embracing his role and is trying to get better every day in practice and help their team play better. I mean, we all know Ty Rodgers is going to transfer, but you see him on the sideline celebrating, standing up, cheering on his guys, right? I wish Ty Rodgers wouldn't have redshirt, because I feel like he still could have a really good role on this team as a veteran and like one of those guys that like the glue guy role, right? But as we watch this team play, it almost makes a lot of sense that he's not out there. So, yeah, let me know what y'all think about that. I don't think it's that serious, but I was reading some of the comments of that video of the post-game locker room, and a lot of people are like, the Kerry Booth stuff. I just don't know. Let's go to the chat before we end this thing. We're about 47 minutes in. I appreciate y'all. If you have not hit the like button, hit that like button and hit the subscribe button as well. Would appreciate it. Carl says Riley didn't play bad. He only played 14 minutes a game, about half his average time. He's still our third leading scorer behind KJ and Isevich. I mean, that's one way you want to look at it. I just feel like I'm wanting more. Maybe my expectations are too high. I don't know, man. I don't know. How many shots he took? He took 5 shots, sure. And the 2 shots he made were in garbage time. I don't know. He's got to be that lightning rod off the bench for me. They won by 32. Again, it's the smallest concern of a concern, especially after you win by 32. So I'm optimistic about Will Riley. At the same time, I want to see more because he's too talented at this point. Just kind of how I feel. Lyndon says, I hope there's no letdown versus Washington on Sunday. Same. And that's, this Illinois team is young, right? The narrative surrounded by them is they're young, they're inexperienced, they lack continuity because they're a brand new team. Brad Underwood teams in January have been great over the course of time. So this is another opportunity for this team to show that they're for real. I'm not expecting them to win by 32, but I am expecting them to go to Washington and play a close game at the very least. Washington coming off a nice win against a really good Maryland team, in my opinion. It is on the road. So the good news is that, they're already on the West Coast, and they're not going to go back to Champaign, right? So they're already on the West Coast. They got the time situation. There's no adjustment period. So I guess you can also say, will there be a letdown from Washington after their win against Maryland? I think that's a good one. So a good way to look at it too. So both teams coming off big wins, in my opinion. Washington was 6-point underdogs at home going up against Maryland. So, Vegas did not believe that that they were going to win that game. But yeah, so that's just kind of how I'm viewing it. But I think Illinois certainly has more talent. They certainly should win the game, and I expect them to be favorites going up against Washington on Sunday. But yeah, what time is the game? I think that's key to look at here because I know what it's like. They play at 3 p.m. on Sunday, which is actually like a noon game for them, because for them it'll be noon because there's like a 3-hour difference out there in Seattle, right? So these noon Sunday games, in the past they've been annoying. So we'll see how it goes. All right. I appreciate y'all in the chat. Carl, Philip, Jay, Alexander, Spurgeon Cub fan, and Eggs, and Sonny, and anyone else. Shane, shout out to y'all in the chat. I appreciate y'all. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I do have the show up on Spotify, and yeah, I go live. I normally go live after the game, but last night was so late, and I explained earlier why I didn't go live. But yeah. So if you want to follow me on all the socials, it's the same handle as that's here on YouTube. If you don't, and I appreciate y'all's support. And this was a fun conversation today. Illinois wins 109-77 against number 9 Oregon. Number 22 Illinois upsets number 9 Oregon. 109-77. Incredible win. An absolute incredible win. I am excited. I'm going to use the day to be Delulu and dream a little bit about a Final Four run. No doubt. I know I will do this. I will undoubtedly do this because at the end of the day, I am a fan. It is a great time to be an Illini fan, my friends. As a fair weather Illinois football fan, but a diehard Illinois basketball fan, it has been an incredible week for us. So enjoy the rest of this week and going into this weekend. We'll be back. I'll be back Sunday post game after the Washington game. Hopefully talking about another win. Illinois will try to move to 3-1 in the Big Ten. They're 2-1 in the Big Ten after this win. I am optimistic about moving to 3-1. And all I will say before I get out of here too is the rest of the Big Ten saw this game last night. Those coaches, those players. Illinois, after this game, probably going to have a little bit of a target on their back. So teams are going to come out and give them their best. So Illinois cannot really afford a letdown on Sunday, in my opinion. So with that said, let's just win again. Let's win 2 straight on the West Coast and go back to State Farm next week for Penn State, which I will be at, by the way. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about, my friends. There's a lot to be excited about. So we'll talk about it more on Sunday, hopefully after a win. If not, therapy will be here. All right. So as always, my friends, thanks for watching. And as always, ILL.